Hi, my name is Chris and this is Battle Nonsense. In my last video I talked about the weapon changes and the increased time to kill in the Battlefield 4 CTE. So in the first part of this video I will do a bit of a follow-up on that, and in the second part I will show you the biggest issue that I still have with the hit registration. Okay, so I'd like to say again that the weapon damage changes for the automatic weapons that have a maximum damage of 25 or more is only effective at very close range. If the distance between you and the player you are shooting at is longer than 10 meters, then you will feel very little to no difference. For some reason this was not clear for a few people in my previous video. What I keep reading in comments and forum posts is that because of these weapon damage changes, it is now impossible to kill more than 2 players with just one magazine at close range, especially if you don't hit the head. I think you will understand that I don't agree. Yes, the recon was already down to 50%, but with all the rounds that I shot in the wall because I was just so tired, because I only got 3 hours of sleep 2 days in a row, I could have easily dropped him too. And all that without a single headshot. So that you can't kill 3 people with 1 magazine with these new weapon damage values is not true. And as I said, when you increase the distance to 10 meters, then you will not feel much of a difference at all. But if you watched my previous video until the point where I showed you the bullets to kill numbers from the CTE compared to public BF4, then you already knew that. In the comments of that video, a few of you who don't have access to the CTE also asked me to show some more gameplay with that change. So what you see here is all from just 1 round domination in the CTE. In the interest of time I've edited it, otherwise it would be about 20 minutes long. I'm playing as Assault with the L85A2 equipped with a Coyote, Flash Hider and Angled Grip. Basically I just selected something without wasting too much time thinking about it and started to play. So as I said, I was very tired on Sunday when I recorded this, so the 28 kills to 11 deaths at the end of the round is not that good. A few times you might wonder how I knew where that guy would be at. If you keep an eye on the minimap and listen to the voiceovers and the footsteps around you, then this does give you an advantage, and this is how I sometimes was able to wait for a player who would come around the corner in the next few seconds. This is something I learned in the old Battlefield games like Battlefield 2 that did not have 3D spotting or automated voiceovers, which your player is shouting out randomly. What a few of you noticed in the last video is that when I shot the recon in the CTE build, the damage animation or head flinching was just as bad as in public Battlefield 4, even though DiceLA already greatly reduced how much the player moves in that animation. Some have been concerned that DiceLA reverted these changes on purpose and that they are gone. But that the animation reverted to the original was an accident, as Switchblade327 from DICE told us in the CTE forums. What happened is that in the process of including the weapon damage changes into the CTE build, they accidentally reverted the animation changes. Things like these are annoying, but that's also what we have the CTE for, to catch such problems to avoid that this happens in the public patch. So don't worry. The changes for that animation are still on the table and should be part of that patch that is expected this fall. I've also been asked if I could do a video or videos where I answer questions from you guys. I'm always trying to reply to every question posted in the comments on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and those I get by email. But if you guys want me to do Q&A videos, then I will do that. Just send me your questions to battlenonsense@gmail.com. and I will answer them in a video if I can. Questions don't have to be limited to the Battlefield franchise. You can also ask me other things that are related to gaming, YouTube, video editing, hardware, software and stuff like that. Now to the second part of the video. Let me show you something. I came from east and engaged the enemy around A. There was no enemy behind me as far as I can tell, and the flag did stay neutral even after I died, so no one seems to have been in the flag capture radius behind me. As you can see in the network performance graph, I had a latency of 48.16 milliseconds. That number is always higher than the ping in the scoreboard, as it is not the same thing. I explained this in another video. I've absolutely no packet loss and the packet queue is also very good at just 1. This is from the same round I showed you before, recorded at 60 frames per second as you can see in the timecode. So in frame 26 I have 100 health, but in the next frame I am down to 40. This means that in one frame, that's 16.66 milliseconds, I received 60 damage. According to the damage indicator, the damage came from the front. As you can see by the blood splatter effect and in the kill card, this was not a headshot. And when we have a look at the scoreboard, then this player also does not seem to have a bad internet connection because he has a ping of 26 milliseconds. I checked the scoreboard many times during that round and I've never seen him spike up to very high values. So if it's not his latency and there were no other players firing at me, then what did just happen here? Now let's have a look at this here. There's an enemy in front of me which I take down and I'm taking damage from behind. As you can see, there is an enemy behind me which just shot me down to 74% health. My latency is at 52.28 milliseconds, there's absolutely no packet loss inbound or outbound and the packet queue is very low at 1. And in the next frame I am dead. This means that I've just received more than 74 damage in one frame. According to the damage indicator and the minimap, this damage came from that guy who is behind me, who has one of my squad members next to him who is so kind and knifes that guy. In the kill cam we also don't see other enemy players because they would be firing at my teammates. Now how about the latency of this player? As you can see he has 36 milliseconds ping and I have 25. So this is still very good. Where is the problem? Let's have a look at one last example. Just like before, all the values in the network performance graph are quite good, so that can't be the problem. What we see here now is that I have one guy to my right, as the damage indicator also shows he's shooting at me. Currently I still have 100% health. Now let's have a look what happens in the next frame. Now I'm down to 27. This means that I've just received 73 damage in one frame. And just like in all examples before, it was not a headshot. And when we are now looking in the scoreboard, we see that this guy has a ping of 265 milliseconds. So this guy has not the best connection to this server. He is most likely playing out of region. Okay, so my connection can't be the problem. And in most of the cases I showed you, the connection of the other players also does not seem to be the problem because they have a quite low ping. So what could cause this problem? Well, it could be something in the server that is going wrong or something else that is deep down in the code of the engine. However, using the ping to find out if a player has a good internet connection is not a good idea because it does not tell you about the stability, about the quality of the other player's internet connection. It basically just tells you how far away he is from the server. Sure, when you see a player spike from 25 milliseconds up to 400 milliseconds, then it is very obvious that he has a problem with his internet connection. However, the values that would be most interesting are the packet loss inbound and the packet loss outbound. If you are suffering from outbound packet loss, then this means that the data you are sending to the server does not always reach its destination. So the client will try to send that data again. And because damage is a critical value, the client will collect the damage of your fired rounds and then send them all at once in an attempt to get the data to the server as fast as possible. As a result, the player you fire at gets all the damage at once, and this is also what led to the infamous one-frame deaths with the Scar H. So what I did during the last weeks in the CTE was to ask the player who killed me in a very strange way to enable the network performance graph on his client. And in every case they did tell me that they were suffering from occasional packet loss, as the graph showed. I've also used the connection emulator from SoftPerfect to create a packet loss of 10% on my client and then go and play online. What then happened quite quickly was that people started to complain in the chat that I would drop them in very strange ways. A few of them also accused me of using damage mods or a namebot. The important thing to remember here is that I don't get an advantage by playing with outbound packet loss, because on my screen I still need the same time, the same amount of rounds to kill another player. The only difference is that the damage of multiple of my fired rounds gets sent all at once to another player. So on their screen it seems like an insta-kill. Today a few guys in the CTE were so kind to join an empty server with me and do some tests. My plan was to include the video of these tests here, but for some reason Shadowplay failed completely, and even though I've seen the recording indicator in-game, there is just no file on my hard disk. Sorry guys, this didn't work for some reason. But what these tests clearly showed is that even though I had a constant 10% packet loss, not every time when I was firing at another player was my damage of the rounds combined into one packet. If the player receives all damage at once cannot be predicted. This happens randomly. So abusing the packet loss outbound to do some sort of cheating is not really possible. And to have a lot of outbound packet loss does also cause a lot of strange problems on your client. What did surprise me was that I could crank up the packet loss to 50% and I could still play on the server. The server didn't kick me. As I said in my previous videos, people with bad internet are not bad people. They don't do that to go on your nerves. They also don't have a general advantage as some players think. Playing with ping spikes and packet loss is not fun. Many players don't even have a choice than playing out of region because EA does not have a contract with game server providers in their area, so there are no servers near them. That EA is selling a multiplayer game in an area without bothering about availability of game servers is just ridiculous. So how can this issue be fixed? Well, first of all we need a better kill card, like in Ghost Recon Phantoms. Why do we need that? Well, because sometimes it only seems like you receive too much damage from one player, while there were actually multiple players firing at you at the same time. This is simply not clear in Battlefield. Only when the game tells us who hit us and where he or they hit us, it becomes clear how we died, and the what the fuck moments will be greatly reduced. I have pushed this idea for a better kill card to DiceLA several times. Let's see what happens once the fall patch is out. What EA has to do is finally get game servers up and running in areas that still don't have even one, so that everyone can play inside their own region. What DiceLA should have a look at is how much damage can be bundled on the client into one packet. I think that currently it can bundle the damage of too many rounds. If a player is suffering from packet loss, then this must not harm the experience of players who have a good connection. In such a case, when you have packet loss outbound, the packet should just get lost and the hit not count. I know that players with unstable connections will not like that, but let's be realistic here, everything else is just unfair. DiceLA could also consider to give the server admin the option to define the maximum allowed ping and packet loss for players who connect to the server. So that if an admin on PC or console wants to restrict the server to players who have a very good internet connection, then they can do that. These server options then also need to be exposed in the server browser, in the filter options. And it also must be able to handle occasional ping spikes and packet loss. On official servers this should not be available, only on ranked, unranked and private servers. So there would always be a server even if you have a bad internet connection. This was again a rather long video, but I hope that you still enjoyed it. Don't forget to send questions you have to battlenonsense@gmail.com, and if you like my content, then please consider to hit the subscribe button and I might see you next time. Until then, have a nice day and take care. My name is Chris and this was Battle Nonsense.